The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. All right. You know what time it is. It is showtime. This is the Green Acres Garden Podcast. Welcome, one and all. So glad you could make it. This is the home for green thumbs, gardeners, and lovers of plants. This week, we have an incredible topic to talk about that really kind of culminates a lot of different aspects of landscaping and gardening. To help me discuss it, back in here in studio, my man riding shotgun, Austin Blank on audio. How's it going there, bud?
Hey, Kevin, I'm doing great. And hello to all of our listeners. Welcome back to the show. And you're right, Kevin, we have such a cool episode today because we're talking about creating sacred spaces. And it's kind of a new topic, but kind of not, because there's a lot of crossover with things we talk about all the time, right?
Well, as anyone's listening right now, they probably love gardens, gardening, and plants.
Yes.
So we could argue that any and every garden is in itself is a sacred space.
Sure.
But this week we really want to amp it up and turn it to 11.
Yeah.
And so I think with a few little tweaks and ideas and some concepts that we're going to dabble in with our wonderful guests this week, it's going to be a really cool topic to kind of kick around a little bit, because it's really, hopefully the idea is to make the most out of the space that you have, big or small, you can do it all. And you can create a space that really helps maybe kind of get you back to center, that a space that cultivates ourselves and nurtures oneself, and hopefully life around us. And so I think a sacred space is going to be different to each person. But I love the topic. I love the idea.
Yeah.
Ever since talking with our guest, I've been kind of fired up. Like, hey, I want to get out.
Sure.
I want to get out in that garden. I want to stretch. I want to do some push-ups. I want to plant some plants and create a space that really makes me just feel great to be in, and maybe hopefully shed some of that stress. Let me detox from my technology a little bit. Put that black mirror, that screen away. And hopefully find just a moment in my day of peace, not just for me, folks, but hopefully for everybody listening. Because
I totally agree. I think it's so important and to talk about and to share, and we're going to bring up a lot of cool ideas. And I don't think everyone has to take all of them, but maybe one or two of them will connect with you. And
Absolutely.
It might be something you want to take into your own life and intentionally try to focus on and bring that. A sacred space is this right here, this studio I made just for podcasting. We record here and we edit here, and that's all it's for. And it's nice and calm and quiet, and it's a productive space for us. So
Absolutely.
I love coming here and working in this.
And I can see plants from where I'm sitting, so that brings me joy.
There's plants too. But it's something we can create in our garden as well, which is so cool. And nature can help us get there. And
Nature, love
I
it.
wanted to make sure you had a chance to share Greg's story, Kevin. Can you?
Yes. So for some of our listeners who know producer Greg, he's on the podcast. He helps us out every week. He has been working in the nursery industry for over 4 decades. He's helped countless customers kind of make their garden dreams a reality. And he told me this wonderful story, emailed it over, that kind of, I think, encapsulates this week's topic really well. And so I'm just going to dive right into it. And this was a story about a customer. She had recently lost her husband. She had just been diagnosed with a terrible disease. She had a very high-stress career, and things were kind of going off the rails. And she even realized, hey, I want to create a space that maybe makes me happy and brings me a little peace. And so check this out. I'll just read verbatim what he wrote. Through all the years that I've been at the nursery, I've had customers ask to help them create a Zen experience in their yards. I remember a customer that wanted plants that made living incense fragrances in her yard. I recommended sweet olive, Corsican mint, and Japanese honeysuckle, to name a few. The sweet olive made a great privacy screen, and the flower of the sweet olive emits a very pleasant apricot fragrance that is emitted more at night. She placed that sweet olive near her hot tub and relaxed at night from her high-stress job by meditating and smelling that sweet olive fragrance. The Corsican mint was placed between stepping stones, and when walked on, the mint would release the mint fragrance. She planted Japanese honeysuckle on her fence, and that fragrance was intoxicating during the summertime. She came in a number of times and showed me how she added a small fountain here, wind chimes. She noticed that the birds would start visiting every morning, and she said they sang a special melody just to her for her additions. It created a very spiritual atmosphere that she said saved her life. The fragrances, the sounds, the plants, it all plays a part. I loved it. Hearing that got me fired up, because you really realize that just even a few different little, changes and tweaks to our environment can really have a great effect on our own well-being, emotional, physical, spiritual, what have you. So hopefully in today's episode, people will get a little bit inspired, just a little bit of information, maybe a couple arrows for their quiver to take care of themselves.
Yeah, that's cool.
Take care of their family, their friends, even the natural world with their landscape. Big or small, I think you can do it all. And so with Trisa Soleil, I think we're going to kind of dip our toe into that world a little bit. I think she provides some really interesting concepts and ideas that we can maybe learn from a little bit and maybe get fired up on.
She's great. She practices Qigong, and I love martial arts, so that stood out to me. She's a budding author, and she's a landscape designer, right? She's got a lot of cool things in her pocketbook of skills there.
Absolutely. And so it was an honor and just a pleasure to talk with her. So I hope our listeners enjoyed as well.
Yeah, so we met up with Trisa Soleil at the Green Acres in Citrus Heights, and we talked all about creating a sacred space. Here we go.
Trisa, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So please tell us a little bit about your background and what we're doing here today. What are we going to talk about?
Well, my background is I had a landscape business, Living Art Landscapes, for 20 years. And then when COVID hit, I took a break, and then I got really deeply into Qigong, and I started practicing in my yard and realizing I needed that space to do it because our house is full of people. And then I realized there's something really special about creating a space to practice something that takes care of me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think this is a perfect time to have this episode. We've talked each week about growing tomatoes and cultivating a garden that supports your physical health, and growing flowers that are for the bees and the birds and for your own well-being. I think this is going to kind of take it to the next level. The idea of creating a garden or landscape that's like a sacred space. I know that's kind of come up in our conversation here. What can you kind of define, like what makes it sacred, and where do we even begin?
Yeah, so sacred you can look at as something that is worshiping God or religion, but it's also just worshiping something that is awe-inspiring or that you respect. So when your yard is your home, it's something that you want to make awe-inspiring and respect. But the place that you're creating is to take your body into that place because it deserves awe and respect. It deserves care, right? And a lot of times in our busy, busy world with full of technology and everything's analytical, right? We have no place to go to disconnect from all of it and just take care of ourselves and really just reconnect with ourselves and the ground, but not in the mind, but in the body. And that's what it gives you. It gives you a place to really lean into when you just want to escape.
What are the elements that for you are going to make a space that is going to make me feel good to be in, to where I can either exercise in there or nourish myself or maybe catch a fragrance that kind of changes my mood? What goes through your mind?
Yeah, so the first thing I'm doing is looking at the space, and you always have your design elements first, like what feels like it should go here or there. But then there's like, how do you want to use this space? Are you a meditator that you just need a place to sit? Or do you need a place to work out? Do you need a place to practice yoga and Qigong? Do you need a place to contemplate? And then if you are doing the practices of grounding and the practices of light therapy, you need a place to be able to sit and look at the sky in the east in the morning. You need a place to be able to move your body. But you don't want to be left with all these weird empty spaces like, oh, there's a deck over there that doesn't have anything on it. You want to make sure that the landscape allows for those spaces without them looking like they're spaces for working out and for yoga,
Absolutely. So you brought up actually a few terms I want to go over. Let's tackle them one at a time. What have you been saying?
Qigong. It's spelled Qigong. You can think of it as Chigong, and sometimes you see it spelled that way. It's interchangeable.
And, it's like a martial art? What's going on? You go out there throwing some roundhouse kicks out in the garden?
Right. Qigong is one of those things, it's like yoga. It has 3,000 different styles. It's been around for 5,000 years. And there's basically like a couple elements that make it different. So you have meditative Qigong, you have martial arts Qigong, you have medical Qigong. Basically, they're all the same in the way that they move the body to be able to massage the fascia that's in your body to release adhesions from physical trauma and mental trauma. basically it's a complementary practice with yoga. Yoga is like you find a pose, you go deep into it, and you hold, you breathe, and it's very strengthening and very relaxing at times.
I've done it one time, not good at it.
Yeah, Qigong, you go to that place, then you relax your body, and you go deeper. And so it's like a graceful power. Like you're there, but you're not killing yourself. There's something powerful about it, but you're in a graceful state. And it's like getting that elasticity back into the body. It gets blood flow glowing, so it's very healthy for the joints and the muscles and the brain. And then when you align with breath, it's very meditative in that way because you're focusing on the movements and the breath, so you can't think about the grocery list. You
the inhale, the exhale.
Yeah. So you really have this movement meditation. So people who have a hard time with that don't have a hard time because they're too focused. And then you start to learn the moves, and then you really get that meditative experience that people often look for when they go to sit, and then they get all monkey mind going on, and they're like, I can't do this. So it's an alternative, and it's really good for your body, both physically and mentally.
Well, I'll play the advocate as if I'll go. Let's say I'm going to go do it tomorrow. What are some good materials, or like what would make a landscape suitable for me to go do this, or if I'm going to go out there and stretch, whether it's yoga or this?
Right. So it depends. So if you want to do grounding with it, you need certain materials. But you do want a flat ground. You do want to be able to, because you're really moving your whole body, so you want to be able to get really good balance. So whether it's concrete or grass or sand, something that feels good on the feet is helpful. You can do it on a deck, but you don't get grounding then. So that's what I mean. It depends on the materials.
You'd be touching Mother Earth with your bare feet.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I'm into that.
Because it's
like
energizing.
That.
But you also can get grounding mats and put them on that deck if you don't have those kind of materials in your house. So there's lots of ways to do it.
Now grounding, I've been on the internet. I heard this a little bit. Can you tell me what actually is that?
The basics of grounding is this: the ground has negative energy to it, and that's why we ground all electricity to it. So to stabilize the electricity, right? We are electrical. We are that's our whole body is electrical. But when we are constantly stimulated by technology and blue light and the environment, we never unplug from it. And we used to before the 60s, before the rubber sole came out, we often got grounded. Now we never get grounded. Then we go into houses that have foundations that aren't connected, and all those things. So we don't get that opportunity to get grounded unless we make the effort to do it in the right places. But we have to know about it.
When you see it, what are some of the things where you're like, oh, they did great there, or you see ways that how can we improve our own landscapes?
Well, first of all, I think that you have to establish some privacy. That's one thing. I would definitely make sure that you have some landscape that gives you the taller shrubs or trees to block out other people, like on their second floor, being able to look into your space. So that just gives you a little, just uncomfortable. Right?
Yeah, a little more comfort when you feel.
But part of that too is to pick plants that you don't have to maintain all the time, that don't need hedging all the time, that just let them be, let them do their thing, give them the space. And then layer it and bring in a lot of foliage color so that you get that, and then make sure that foliage color is distributed around the yard. So you don't know why it feels good. It just feels intimate and it feels interesting. It's not overpowering. It's everywhere. So you're not really focused on one thing or the other unless you want them to be focused in a certain area, which are your focal points, right?
You have a specimen plant or something.
A specimen plant, a water feature, a sculpture. And you're going to have multiple sculptures, but it's the way that you take them around that yard that makes that piece different. And that's making sure that if you have a focal point, that you always have that there's always like an interesting way to view it, whether it's walking through it on a very comfortable place, on a comfortable pathway, or if it's a beautiful seating area that you're looking across the yard at this thing, you know.
It's like a curated experience for your friends.
It's an art walk basically for you, and it's your things that matter to you. One of my clients, he has doors from China from the 1800s, and he's got a Buddha on a plywood that's beautiful, and he's got a stainless steel spot. There's many areas of this yard.
Makes you want to be out in that garden all day.
Gosh. Yeah. And it's shady, and the way that the wind, it just, the sounds in that yard, and we don't even have chimes in that space. It's just the plants and
the leaves
the
kind
way,
of hitting each other.
The water features, because there's 3 water features in that yard too. So. And water features are a fantastic way to cut down on outside noise that you can't control. That's another way to kind of
noise pollution, the road and whatnot.
My house actually is right up against, the backyard is up against Blue Ravine. I have 5 water features back there. I have chimes. I have things that, we bring in tons of birds with all these water features. So it can cut down on that outside noise, so you can continue to be, look inward and focus on what's going on for you, right? Relax, contemplate, think of what you're grateful for, whatever.
Just a moment of calm in your day.
Just get out.
Put that screen away, that black mirror we're all staring into 24/7. Right. Just give it a rest for a moment.
Just be.
That sounds really nice. I think I really loved your advice you just gave about, layering the plants. Mm-hmm. And maybe for someone who maybe didn't know what that is, can you describe what do you mean by layering? Because I love that when you see a landscape, and I think the using the different, the multi-foliage colored shrubs and plants, you got something that's lime green, something that's red, something that's, solid green, all these.
Yeah.
And then when they're varying heights and they all kind of touch each other, it makes it look lived in. It makes it look a little wild, but still well kept. Is that what you were describing?
So most of my clients will be like, I want low maintenance. Okay. So don't have them hedged. Let them be. We give them space. So it doesn't look crowded. It doesn't look overdone. But when you have your big tree, and then you have your mid-sized shrub, and then you have your lower plants, and then you might even have some ground cover. And then pick things that don't need to be deadheaded. But when you have foliage color, it's like having flowers all the time, but you don't have to take care of them. You don't have to deadhead them. You don't have to, rake them up all the time. And then making sure you have that nice mix of deciduous and evergreens, so one area is not blank all the time.
It's that seasonal interest.
Yeah, and then getting things that do have seasonal interest that turn colors. But then, like the coral bark maple. I mean, that's a beautiful tree.
Sengokaku.
No matter when.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love that thing. The whole reason I got started in this grounding thing and stuff was having trouble sleeping, right? I would sleep.
I think a lot of people could appreciate that.
Absolutely, right? I'd go to sleep, no problem, but waking up in the middle of the night. Why? Overstimulation. So grounding was helping. The other thing, though, is light therapy. Your circadian rhythms get off as you age and as we get too much screen time and stuff. So when the morning, it's to reset that, you go out in the morning and look at the sunrise. You don't have to actually see the sunrise at the horizon. You can just look in the east in that direction. So part of putting that together is you have seating in an area that faces that direction, or you work out in an area where you're you're doing your bicep curls and you're looking in the east, right? An hour later, the UVA light comes up, and that's actually really key to resetting that circadian rhythm. So by then, we might be doing the Qigong and relaxing out of our workout and now just stretching the body, right? Or you go back, you have some coffee, you watch the sunrise, go back in, make your breakfast, do whatever, and then you come back out at UVA and get that light. And so you can either be doing something or just sitting there having a conversation, as long as that light is hitting your naked eyes. So you could be doing multiple things in a really small space that doesn't look like you have all this empty space. It's artwork, and you're feeding your body and creating, you're sculpting your life basically through your practices in your yard.
I think a lot of people are hungry for something more, something different, something nourishing in their lives, whatever that is. And I hope for some people it might be spending some time in their garden and just taking care of themselves. I don't know. I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yes, actually, because this is funny, because I wouldn't go out there every day before, but now, since I've started this light practice, it makes me go out there because I have to see the light, right? And so when I go out there, while I'm out there, I'll just pick on a few deadheads because I have a few annuals, right? Or I'll pick out the organic garden we have. And just because I'm supposed to be out there and I'm trying to get my light. So I'm getting a double duty. I'm not only reminding myself to get out in the garden and enjoy it, but I'm also getting that light, right? And then
side benefits.
Yeah. And the other thing is if it's cold out, a lot of times we don't go out. But when we have a reason to go out there, we wrap up and then we notice the birds, we notice the dragonflies, we notice the blooms that are happening on something that it's sort of in the back of the waterfall or whatever, right? So you start to notice things differently. So it brings you into that present awareness too. So it's all these levels of meditation. You don't have to sit and close your eyes. You can just sit out there and look at the light and think of something you're grateful for and 3 reasons why, right? It deepens that experience.
That's a good way to start the morning, actually.
Absolutely.
If you can wake up and think about anything that you're grateful for, it's like, that's a pretty healthy way start a new day.
Add those 3 reasons why, though. That really deepens that experience.
I like
super
it.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, Trisa, unfortunately, our time has come. I thank you so much. I feel like my mind is blown. I learned a bunch every week. I get to meet some pretty wonderful people. And this week, it hasn't changed. I got to meet a wonderful person, and I learned a lot. And so just thank you so much. This is really cool. It makes me kind of look at my landscapes just a little bit different. And now I want to see what I can do to maybe make them just a little bit more sacred. So thank you so much for making time for us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to share. I think it's pretty special. It comes from my heart, and I love giving it to the community.
All right, we are back from our interview. Big thank you to Trisa and Kevin. I see you excited. I wanted to talk about this and recap this because it's a lot of cool things that we're learning here from Trisa's practice in her own life. And there's certain things that I want us to try now, like grounding, getting out there and getting barefoot. Do you ever garden with your shoes off?
I do, especially at home. I don't do it at work. The kids would freak out.
But we talk about touching the soil and how that's good for your health.
That's a big meme right now online for kids who are at home gaming too much on their computers. It's like, hey, get out, turn it off, get outside, go touch grass.
Oh, okay.
And I think there's some benefit to that for sure. Absolutely. And she touches on that quite a bit. So I really love the message that she had, and to kind of hear about the benefits that happen from it are really cool. And I think these are ideas and behaviors and practices that we can all, I think, enjoy and benefit from. So for those of you who maybe are fired up on it, I'm going to give you a little rundown of maybe some bullet points of how to create that sacred garden, because I've been thinking about it. So of course, from what I've learned in this interview, make it personal to you. What do you want the sacred garden to be? What is it going to look like for you? It's going to be unique and special for each person, each family. So kind of have a plan of what you actually want to get out of the garden. Once you have that, then you're ready to kind of get started. In that garden, create some privacy. That is, I think, going to be key. She brought it up in our interview. Privacy is key. You don't want to feel like you're on display in your backyard. Some of her stuff. She had me stretching out like a tiger.
Yeah, no,
so it's like,
cool.
which is fun, but it's like sometimes your neighbor looks at you, then
you
might
be self-conscious.
They're like, hey, you're not invited to the party.
But also that privacy is going to help you kind of almost lose yourself, fall into that flow state, or assist in, if you want to practice meditation, or if you just want to kind of be transported to a different place, that privacy is going to get you there.
I would agree. So privacy is huge. You can do that with tall shrubs, even like, really tall plants with verticality. Sometimes that could be a perennial grass, could be even a clumping bamboo. There's plenty of options out there, but having those plants that kind of rise up and soften the fence, soften a wall, give you a little bit of a little barrier between you and your neighbors is helpful. You can do it with fencing, garden walls, arbors, trellises. Those are all great ways to help create privacy. Another thing that I liked is the idea of an entryway, where it's almost like you're not a transformation, but you're like teleporting from one area of your landscape to another. And now this area has a completely different purpose. And it's your own well-being, and it's creating a sacred space. So garden gates, all that stuff is very helpful. Make it peaceful. So right now we got personal, private, and peaceful. peaceful. You want it serene. Create some serenity now. And she mentioned she did that a lot. She backs up to a really busy street, a lot of noise. I kind of connect with that. I'm near a busy street. There's street lights.
Right.
And what's cool is that we have a canopy of trees. And so she blocks the noise pollution and all that out with water features, which is really cool. Wind chimes. I love that. So you want to mitigate that noise pollution, create some nice sounds that you like. Of course, you can plant for bringing in those birds. Bird songs, I mean, come on, that's about as lovely as it gets. And so to go with the sound, I love a good fragrance. And it came up a lot in Greg's story. I think having plants out there, and especially ones that bloom and are fragrant at different times of the day, different times of the year, find those fragrant flowers and plants that bring you joy. They all smell a little different, so it's kind of fun to go out and investigate. If you find ones, I always like just walking around my neighborhood, and then you'll see plants, you'll smell them, you go, oh, I love that. Then you figure out what it is, and then you're off and running. So that's a great way to, if you're not certain and you're maybe you don't know about a lot of fragrant, go to the nursery, ask people, but also just go for a walk and see what really kind of brings you joy.
What were the smells that came from Greg's story?
That was the Corsican mint. It's a little ground cover, and you just a little crushing it gently under your feet.
That's a cool idea.
It smell. You can kind of rub your hands over it.
Be walking on something that makes a smell.
Absolutely. And then the other ones that bloom at night. One's fragrant in the summertime. If you have citrus blossoms, they're going to be blooming in the spring. And there's, roses, lavender. The herbs I thought are just a great addition if you're going to create this sacred space. Your lavenders, your rosemaries, lemon balm, sage. All those are just fantastic options for bringing in some fragrances that are really pleasing. And also those plants have a tendency to bring in pollinators and birds and bees as well. So it's pretty cool. I love that. So making it peaceful, I think, is huge.
Sure.
Another thing I really thought was key was trying to utilize natural materials whenever possible. So especially for she brought up grounding, and you just talked about it, getting your socks off and getting out there a little bit.
Yeah, she brought up grounding mats. I'd never even heard of that, but that's cool. You know, you don't want a bunch of like plastic and stuff out there, right?
Yeah, you want to. Yeah, she's talking about getting that electrical charge kind of keyed in and grounded to the planet Earth. So it's pretty cool. I already kind of do it naturally. My son, I can't get shoes on him when we're outside, so he loves it as well until he hurts himself. He'll figure it out.
Of course.
But grounding is awesome, and I think if you're going to be out in that sacred space, it's like you don't need to be out there with headphones on and your phone in your hand and your thick rubber-soled shoes on. It's kind of like it's a time to maybe detach a little bit and get away from that a little bit.
That makes me think of, I did make a gardening playlist of music to listen to in the garden, but that's just another approach. You don't have to go that way. But I wanted to bring up this idea that has been fascinating me lately, which is the idea of in your home creating a low-tech zone.
Ooh.
And I think this is going to maybe become more popular because we're just dying
inundated
to
with
get
tech.
away from tech, right? So why not make an area, a room if you can, or part of a room. Hopefully it could actually be your bedroom, but
that'd be ideal.
Don't put TVs in every room. Find a space where you can have less technology and you can escape it if you need to. So that's something I tried, I would like to do. And the garden could be exactly that. That could be your low-tech zone.
I met a wise gardener one time. He told me, he's like, you know what I call technology? And I was like, what? He said, take knowledge away.
Take knowledge away? Jeez.
Yeah, I was like 18, 19. It blew my mind. I was like, whoa, this guy's onto something.
Huh.
And that was even before smartphones and all that. He's like,
see, I don't know if I totally agree because technology does provide us with information.
For sure. It's how you utilize it and how we, absolutely.
Right.
But it was interesting kind of aspect to think about. And so I loved it. I think getting down that garden is very, it's advantageous. If you want to do that, it's because you're still going to have joy. You're going to have stimulation.
So to wrap all this up, Kevin, I think you said there are 3 main concepts to creating a sacred garden. What are those 3?
Well, I've been researching about that, and I've noticed some similarities in how people approach this idea of creating a sacred space or sacred garden. The 3 main kind of categories that you want the garden to kind of fulfill is creating a connection between you and your landscape, you and nature, you and the earth. Creating a landscape that allows for reciprocity or giving back. And then, of course, honoring life. And so that, to me, if you can have a landscape that allows you that connection, allows you to give back, and allows you to honor life, come on. You're now at this point, you're just cultivating joy. You're cultivating your own well-being, and hopefully a lot of other great things as well.
But that's all the time we have for this week, Kevin. But
Darn
I
it.
hope people are inspired. I hope people are getting motivated and get out there and make their spaces more personal and better and improve their lives with it. So,
Amen.
With that in mind, Kevin, go ahead and take us out.
Well, thank you all to everybody for listening and tuning in. We love it. Please share us with a friend. Thank you to our guest, Trisa Soleil. I cannot wait to get out in the garden. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Until next week, garden friends, get out in that garden, stretch a little bit, and see what you can do to make your garden space a little more sacred. Until next time, garden friends, happy gardening to you all. And please, never stop growing.
Yes.
Woo.
All right, let's go kick around a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it made me think of you. I was like, man, you ever seen Bloodsport?
Yeah.
Where,
Why are you thinking of Bloodsport?
No, because in Bloodsport,
does he do the splits in that?
He does. Of course he does.
He does it in every
the whole
film,
movie. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
He learns martial arts from like his neighbor.